All right, good morning again, everyone. It's now 8 a.m. by my clock. I just checked the participants list. I don't see anybody in the attendees portion of this webinar, so it looks like everyone has signed in on as panelists. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, it's 8 a.m. Welcome to the June 6th meeting of the Criminal CCJC. Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. And again, my name is Moya Panda. I am taking over as chair for Christine Anderson. So welcome again to you all. We do have the minutes that were sent out by Jen Rogers from my office. I believe there was only one change to the meeting minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the April 4th, 2025 minutes? Okay. Go ahead.
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you. And I have a second. Okay, I see a second. Thank you. All right, the April 4th, 2025 minutes have been approved. And while we're talking about minutes, as you can see, the last minutes were 10 pages long, prepared by Claire and Hamilton. And so going for, as you all may know, I'm the executive director of the Office of Police Accountability. So I handle the meetings for the Police Accountability Board, as well as the Administrative Charging Committee. The Police Accountability Board meets 8 times a year, and the Administrative Charging Committee meets sometimes weekly in open and closed session. So what we have done is we do a minutes that just gives you the quick and dirty version of what happened, as well as having the opportunity to use videos as the recording of the minutes. We have spoken to the Office of Law in this matter. And we're asking going forward for the CJCC to move to a much more abbreviated minutes and using the video link as the way to see what you've missed if you've missed a meeting. So I'm proposing that I have a motion on the floor for us to switch to the minutes being by video. And you'll still have a written minute. It will just show who the presenters were, a quick summary of what they presented on, the attendees that were in attendance. So you'll still have probably a one-page minutes, and then there'll be a link, hyperlink for you to click on the video and review what you may have missed. So if everybody agrees with me, and so we no longer have a 10-page minute, I would entertain a motion on the floor to switch to that format. So we make it much easier on Claire and Hamilton.
Do you mind if I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Where will those recordings be housed?
I believe they're going to, go ahead, Jen.
Typically, we put a link into YouTube on Arundel TV, and then on the website, people can access those minutes with a link to that Arundel TV YouTube channel.
Okay, thank you.
And it will also be hyperlinked in the minutes that are sent for approval for you all to see as well.
So moved.
Thank you, Christine. May I have a second, please?
Second, but it's in my self-interest too.
Right, I was looking out for you. I saw that 10-page minutes and I'm like, oh no, let's help you out. Thank you so much though for all the work that you've done to help with that. So we have a motion and a second, and so I think we can go forward with that. Thank you so much. All righty, so we're in the new business section, and I'm proud to have welcomed Judge Sydney Butcher from the District Court for Anne Arundel County to present today. Just a fun fact, Judge Butcher and I were baby lawyers together as prosecutors at the State's Attorney's Office for Baltimore City back in the day. So I'm just so happy to welcome him here today. He's going to talk about the work that he does with the American Bar Association, their criminal justice section. So again, welcome, Judge Butcher, and thank you again so much for joining us this morning.
Come a long way from North Avenue and Wabash and all that good stuff. So
yes.
And your role as chair. So yes, thank you for that nice introduction. My name is Sydney Butcher. I'm a district court judge here in Anne Arundel County. I see my administrative judge on here. So I guess I got to make sure I'm on time for the bench so I don't get yelled at by him. I believe I can share my screen, so I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so I'm the current chair of our criminal justice section, the American Bar Association Criminal Justice Section, and we like to pride ourselves as being the unified voice of criminal justice. And what does that really mean? Our membership includes judges, private criminal defense attorneys, prosecutors, public defenders, academics, and other professionals. So we're uniquely situated to kind of represent and talk about all the either pressing or different criminal justice issues that are out there. The American Bar Association collectively is the largest attorney organization in the United States, and it's made up of a bunch of different sections. So we have the criminal justice, business law, litigation, things of that nature. And so criminal justice has about 12,000 members across the globe. And we're very similar to this council in terms of how our body is made up of. We try to have an equal amount of representation from all interested parties. So it's not just all criminal defense attorneys or all public defenders versus big law. We try to make sure that everyone has a voice and is represented. We have, excuse me, we have the primary responsibility for the American Bar Association's work on issues involving crime, criminal law, and the administration of criminal and juvenile justice. And so I know Maryland in total has talked about juvenile justice issues, but these are issues that, for example, that's been played out all across the country. And so we try to bring together some of the leading practitioners to talk about best practices to try to cut down on juvenile justice issues, crime, things of that nature, and how we can be more effective in our day-to-day jobs. Some of the other example of goals that we have is that we initiate studies and research. We publish reports, articles, and we try to make sure we get that information out as well. We make recommendations concerning legislative, administrative, judicial proposals relating to, best practices of criminal law. How does that impact places like Anne Arundel County? Well, we've worked with local legislatures to try to get criminal justice reform on the book. So it's not just a federal outlook. We also work on state issues as well. So we work with various legislatures to help them with different bills and things of that nature. We also author amicus briefs to the Supreme Court or other jurisdictions in terms of issues that we believe not just concern criminal law, but are pressing issues. So, I'm not going to hide the ball here. Obviously, we are not political, even though the current White House administration has come out and gone after the American Bar Association in general. But what we've typically done is worked with various administrations over the years, the Department of Justice, to talk about not just criminal justice reform, but maybe how to handle various issues of trying to get individuals out of jail for various different types of reform, if we believe that's what needs to be done. We have over 50 standing committees addressing cutting-edge issues in all fields of criminal law. We have our National Institute of White Collar Crime in our spring conferences. And so we have a number of conferences where we try to put information out. And it's not just lawyers. We have law enforcement personnel from across the country, again, federal and state, that we are normally working with. So it's not just about best practices for attorneys, but also for law enforcement. We have our own criminal justice section magazine and newsletters, and we put out a number of books that talk about a wide range of issues to try to get information out. So all those articles or bills or laws that we're working on, we try to make sure that we get that information out. Our National Institute on White Collar Crime is one of the biggest conferences that we have. We have a few thousand every year, and it goes back and forth between the East Coast and the West Coast. This past February, we were in Miami. We had, I think, about 3,000 practitioners that were there, and it's just filled with different panel discussions, topics that we're focusing on. Again, the whole idea is the best way, best practices of handling your practice. Now, in terms of our structure, again, I think it could be very similar to the structure that you guys have, but our structure, the chair, we have a chair-elect, first vice chair, all that good stuff. That's not really where I think our value is. Our value is in terms of how we have our representation set up. So we alternate the chair every year from criminal to prosecution to a category that we call other. That other could be a judge, it could be an academic, something along those lines. And so we try to make sure that we have that rotation. That way we don't have our own bias, whether it's explicit or implicit, where we're only focusing on, let's say, just say white collar crime issues. We're a lot more than that. And so we want to make sure that we have that appearance of having all that type of representation. We also have a number of special advisors that are responsible for helping us and other outside organizations. This is where law enforcement comes in. Again, we work with state and federal law enforcement to try to figure out some of the best practices and to make sure that one of the main areas that we work on is our criminal justice standards. So again, how does that impact Anne Arundel County? And not just Anne Arundel County, but any jurisdiction that's out there. Ms. Panda and I talked about how we used to be former prosecutors. In terms of best practices, you have various elected officials that come into office, and they could have a different policy in how you handle discovery issues or how you handle certain types of reports, ballistic reports, things of that nature. We have standards that we have all of our practitioners weigh in on what are the best practices to make sure that you're being effective in your office, whether you're a prosecutor, whether you're a public defender, whether you're in law enforcement. So those standards are something that a young lawyer in the state's attorney's office in Anne Arundel County can look at to find out what he or she needs to do to be effective in her job. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. We also spend a lot of time on corrections. And so, again, it's not just about what's happening in the courtroom, but making sure that various facilities are working the way that they're supposed to. And so we have committees that visit state and federal prisons to talk about what the best practices are. We make recommendations on whether something should be privatized or not, and why, if it shouldn't be privatized, why that's not a good thing. And then we will go and work with legislatures on the state and federal level. I think one of the cool committees that we have is we have a DOJ dialogue group. It's probably not going to be very active this current administration, but what we typically do is we go and we meet with the Attorney General and for the United States, and we try to figure out whatever the priorities are for the Attorney General and the White House, and we try to work with them in terms of developing policy and things of that nature. So it's a fantastic organization. I'm really happy to have the opportunity to be the chair. You come in with a lot of different ideas on what you think are important, but the news kind of dictates what's happening. When we had instance of police, there was a perception that there was a lot of violence that was initiated by law enforcement. We worked with various departments on best practices, things of that nature. And so we try to get out there and make sure that everybody's perspective is heard. Again, we're not political at all. And it's just a really fantastic organization. So Ms. Panda, I don't know if there's any other questions or anything like that that I can answer, but I'm open. Those are the few slides I wanted to share.
Thank you so much, Judge Butcher, for presenting to us this morning. I'm going to open the floor up for some questions for Judge Butcher. I'm not seeing any questions as of right now. Judge Butcher, I did have a question. You mentioned that the section does the initiates studies and research and publish reports and disseminates materials. Where would we be able to find those studies and those documents?
So if you're a member of the section, you'll get that information sent to you in an email pretty much weekly, if not daily. However, there's a lot of things that we put out there for the public that's on the ABA website. So our website, I can put the link in the chat here in a moment, but it's aba.org. So just give me a second, I'll put that in the chat. Okay. And if there are no other questions, I'm always available. It's a section that I'm very passionate about. And if there's any other information or questions, I can be contacted offline.
I just
Thank
have
you.
a quick question. I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand. Sorry. Thanks so much for your presentation, Judge Butcher. It seems like, I mean, a great organization with kind of it seems like this council is a microcosm of that larger committee. And I guess my question is, you all, it's a big group and you all have lots of resources. How do we try to accomplish something similar in this small and a smaller committee? We're seeking to accomplish kind of the same thing. I mean, solve these issues on a local level.
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of what you're doing is meeting, right? But I think there has to be another step. It's very easy to sit there and meet. The question is, can you identify 1, 2, or 3 things that you would really like to try to accomplish? And so whether that's having some type of a symposium, whether that's trying to do some type of outreach, whether it's to high schools or training or something along those lines. Obviously, I know that you have representation from the state's attorney's office, and the public defender's office, but maybe trying to bring everyone together for some type of a program where you are actually trying to execute one of your goals.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for that. And I was going to mention as well that it does seem like we are a microcosm of the larger organization. That's why I really wanted to get Judge Butcher here today, just to have a general overview of how it works throughout the nation. Does anybody else have any additional questions? And if anybody wants further information from Judge Butcher, please just reach out to me and I'll put you in contact with Judge Butcher. And Judge Butcher, you're welcome to stay for the next presentation, or you can get ready for your docket this morning. But thank you again so much. We appreciate your presentation this morning.
All right, thank you. And I'll also put my email in the chat too.
Thank you. All righty. So the next presentation we have today is from Ethan Hunt. From the County Exec's Office. He will be giving some updates from the 2025 legislative session. Thank you. Go ahead, Ethan.
Thanks, Moya. Good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name's Ethan Hunt. I'm the Director of Government Relations for the County Executive. And what that means is basically I'm the representative for the county before the County Council and also the General Assembly. So this General Assembly session was unique, but every General Assembly session is unique. And so a lot of the focus this year obviously was on the budget and issues that the state is encountering with the budget, and also handling what is going on in Washington, D.C., and sort of the trickle down effects and how that impacts state government and state operations. And so in other years, there have been, big areas of focus in criminal law and criminal justice. And that happened again this year. There were a few big bills and a lot of other bills that sort of flew under the radar. So what I'll do is, give me 1 second here. Let's see. So the big bills that I'll talk about first really focused on former offenders and what is done once they've served their debt to society, and then also what the state can do on the immigration front, given the federal administration's crackdown on undocumented individuals who are in the country. So the big bill on that front that passed this year was the Maryland Values Act, which was House Bill 1222. And what that bill does, it requires the Attorney General to develop and publish guidance on immigration enforcement at sensitive locations. And what sensitive locations are defined as are public schools, libraries, healthcare facilities operated by the state or local government, facilities operated by the comptroller, courthouse, or any other location that provides state-funded services. And as determined by the Attorney General, requires special consideration for immigration enforcement activities. And so this guidance that the Attorney General is required to put out is required to delineate between immigration enforcement within public portions of sensitive locations and non-public portions, verify the identity of immigration enforcement agents, and also limit the liability exposure for state, local, and private institutions. It's further intended to facilitate relationships between federal law enforcement officers in the state and local officials and law enforcement officers conducting immigration enforcement activities to be least dangerous and disruptive as possible, while also complying with existing legal obligations and limitations. And this was a pretty broad bill. It was a very dense bill. It had a lot of discussion. It also creates procedures to govern the operation of federal law enforcement officers enforcing federal immigration in the state. It requires that those federal officers conducting immigration enforcement at a sensitive location notify the chief law enforcement officer of whichever agency has the primary jurisdiction over that location. One thing that was in this bill that did end up getting stripped out was a provision prohibiting local jurisdictions from entering into agreements with the federal government to conduct immigration enforcement activities. Those are known as 287G programs. So that prohibition did not end up passing the General Assembly. Another bill on the immigration front was related to U visas. Give me 1 second to pull that up. So under federal law, individuals that don't have legal status in the United States who are victims of criminal activity can file for U non-immigrant status. When you're filing a petition, when an individual is filing a petition for U non-immigrant status, the victim or the victim's friend may request a certifying official to certify that the victim has been helpful in a criminal proceeding. And Senate Bill 608 expands who may request the certification for victim helpfulness, to include the victim's attorney, victim advocate, or another representative of the victim. And it also further provides that there's no statute of limitations for when a qualifying criminal activity occurred that's related to the request for certification. Um, Jumping from immigration bills to, I guess, legislation that deals with former offenders. The big one that was the topic of a lot of discussion, and you probably saw quite a bit in the news, was the Maryland Second Look Act. So you may remember in 2021, there was the Juvenile Restoration Act that passed the General Assembly that allows individuals convicted as an adult for an offense that was committed when they were a minor to file a motion to reduce the sentence. And so House Bill 533 expands that, and it allows an individual to file a motion to reduce their sentence if the individual met a number of conditions. The first is that they were convicted of an offense when they were at least 18, but still younger than 25. Two, the sentence was not, they were not sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. They were not convicted of a sex offense. They've been in prison for at least 20 years, and the conviction was not, if it's a conviction for murder, if they were not convicted of murder involving a victim who was a first responder killed in the line of duty. The bill also expanded provisions of the Juvenile Restoration Act to provide that a victim or their representative can submit a victim impact statement to the court regarding the proposed sentence reduction. And the court must order the individual who's released to stay away from or refrain from contact with the victim and the victim's family unless the victim requests otherwise. And the court may also impose any other conditions necessary to promote victim safety and peace of mind. A related bill that passed was the Expungement Reform Act, which was Senate Bill 432. What that bill did was alter various statutory provisions related to waiting periods for filing a petition to expunge a conviction. It also expanded the list of misdemeanor convictions eligible for expungement to include credit card theft and driving without a license. It also expanded the factors that a court must consider for expungement and prohibits Maryland case search from referring in any way to a charge that was null prossed with the required drug or alcohol treatment, or a charge that was placed on the stat docket for at least 3 years, as well as charges of cannabis possession if they resulted in a charge that was later pardoned by the governor. And the bill also specifies that the waiting period before someone may file a petition for expungement begins after the completion of the sentence, which includes any period of probation, parole, or mandatory supervision. And then a few other bills that passed that weren't as broad sweeping policy, but are more so in response to events that occurred throughout the state over the last year. So the first one was regarding organized retail theft. And there was a lot of outreach before the General Assembly session trying to get support for this bill. My understanding is that various jurisdictions have seen an increase in organized retail theft where perpetrators intentionally work across county lines to make apprehension and investigation more difficult. So this was Senate Bill 11 and House Bill 179. And they established that it's a felony offense of organized retail theft if the aggregate property value exceeds $1,500. It also clarifies the venue for prosecuting these cases and requires the court, upon the state's attorney's request, to make a finding of fact as to whether the crime constitutes organized retail theft. It also imposes some maximum penalties based on the value of property and merges the conviction for organized retail theft into conviction under the general theft statutes under the criminal law article when it comes to sentencing. Another bill that passed, and this one arose out of an event in Anne Arundel County. In the past couple of years, you may remember there was a tragic incident where there was a boat collision on, I believe it was the Magathie River, and an individual passed away, and it took about a week to find out who had been operating the other boat that caused the accident. So this was Senate Bill 123. and it requires the operator of a vessel that's involved in a collision, accident, or other casualty that results in bodily injury or death to stop the vessel as close as possible to the scene of the accident so that the operator can comply with current statutory requirements to render assistance. And it also establishes criminal penalties for failure to stop and establishes a criminal penalty for failure to comply with the current duty to render aid and provide identifying information. There was another bill that passed based on something that happened in Charles County, where a funeral home was found to not be properly disposing of human remains. So that House Bill 674 prohibits a person with the intent to seal a crime from knowingly and willfully dismembering, destroying, removing, burying, disposing, or obliterating human remains. And it also prohibits aiding or abetting another person in committing such an act. And it creates it as a felony with a prison sentence of up to 5 years. Another bill that passed regarding revenge pornography. You may remember this was an issue that was a big topic a couple of years ago. And Senate Bill 360 expands the definition of visual representation in revenge pornography in cases to include a computer-generated image, so AI. And then one other bill that passed that was not entirely focused on criminal justice, but it had a portion of it that related to criminal justice. You may remember I believe it was in Montgomery County last year or the year before, there was a state employee, Davis Martinez, who worked for the Department of Parole and Probation, who was murdered while doing a site visit to check on a parolee. So Senate Bill 26 and House Bill 176 included a provision relating to correctional officers for wearing body-worn cameras, and requires the Correctional Training Commission to adopt regulations for the use of body-worn cameras by correctional officers, and it requires each correctional unit in the state to develop policies that are consistent with those regulations. So that's just a quick overview. Obviously, there are lots of other smaller bills. I'm happy to answer any questions, but what I'll also do is drop in the chat the link to the General Assembly's 90-day report, which is about 450 pages long, but it has a brief summation and a link to every bill that passed this session. So there's about 15 pages of criminal justice and criminal law bills. So if you want to take a look at that in your free time, there's lots of good information in there. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Ethan. Does anybody have any questions for Ethan? And Ethan, I have a question for you. Do you happen to know if there's any bills that are getting prepped and ready for the next session regarding criminal justice reform?
I don't know at this time, but
Okay,
I
no
will
problem.
certainly let you know what I hear.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll like to keep an eye on what's coming up next. So thank you for that. Again, just calling out, opening the floor for questions for Ethan. But thank you so much. And I'm so glad you were able to let us know what the major ones were, but I'm also happy that you're able to specifically mention ones that connected to Anne Arundel County, as well as the ones in Charles County and Montgomery County. So thank you for that. And we'll definitely be keeping an eye on any criminal justice related bills going forward for the next session. All righty. So does anyone have any announcements for the group?
I don't know. It's not an announcement. This question kind of dovetails off one of the bills Ethan discussed about the designation of immigrants who give aid. At what point, with the increased pressure on immigrants and other folks, at what point are we going to see a reduction of criminal complaints for crimes that occur because folks are just trying to make themselves scarce, or either as victims or witnesses, or all the above. I know that's been a concern in the past, which is why I think the county has taken the stance that we're really not going to, from the police standpoint, we don't want to get involved in the immigration. We're not required to. We don't, and that's one of the primary reasons, I think. But that message is probably not getting out to the folks who need to hear it. And at some point, I would think it's got to affect those complaints and those witnesses to come forward.
I agree, and I think there was an issue in the past of that. And I think what the county could be doing, we do have Allison Flores is the director of our Hispanic or multicultural relations. Christine, I think I have the title wrong, but Allison Flores, she did present to our group before, and she's doing a lot of outreach to the affected communities, let them know what resources are out there. But what we don't want is for people not to report crimes because the fear of being deported, etc. So I think what helps is her organizations like that who are able to give resources and tell people who are affected or most likely to be affected what resources are out there and how they can, be able to speak with the courts, be able to speak with the public defenders, speak with representatives to know what happens if you are in a situation where you are a victim of a crime and you feel you don't want to report it because you may be deported. I think I see Judge Stevenson had his hand up.
Yes, thank you. So Ham, to that point, we have seen individuals not coming to court, not even for criminal cases, but special juvenile immigrant status or special immigrant juvenile status cases, which will allow them to have a level of their first steps in becoming citizens. So we've seen that decrease already. So it would be great if the advocates can get into the community and let them know, because people are afraid. And we have little to no authority to stop a federal officer from coming into our courtroom and, escorting someone out and taking them into custody. So it's important for them to know both aspects of it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's always helpful to have real world experience of, what's been going on and how each, how it has effect on all of our daily lives, not just the courtroom, but just in the community as well. So thank you, Ham, for that question. And thank you, Judge, for that real world example of what's going on with these policies and how they affect everyone. Any additional announcements?
I just want to invite everybody to the next Circuit Court Drug Court graduation, which is August 11th. It's a Monday at 2 p.m. at the Circuit Courthouse, 8 Church Circle in courtroom 4C at 2 o'clock.
Thank you for sharing. Any additional announcements? I will ask, going forward, I'm going to be looking at topics for our upcoming presentation. So if you have a topic that you're interested in sharing with the group, or if you have organizations that you think might be helpful in presenting to our group, please let me know. You can send me or Jen Rogers an email, and we'll make sure to get that on the schedule for the next upcoming meetings. My plan now is to reach out to the State's Attorney's Office and the Public Defender's Office to have them on deck for some upcoming meetings, as well as the private bar as well. So just giving you a heads up what's to come. But if you do have any additional topics that you want us to talk about or have make presentations on, again, please reach out to Jen and myself to get that on the agenda for the upcoming meetings. The next meeting that we do have is scheduled. Oh, okay. I think Judge Stevenson's hands up again.
Yes, it is. I did receive an email yesterday from our DSS department. They are looking for potential people for the vehicle for exchange for change program. They have an RPIM program that they work with individuals that are that are with child support and have child support delinquencies. So they are looking for individuals. And just to let people know that they do have, it's called the RPEN program. And I think they've spoken here previously, but in the past, but they are have different programs that are available for individuals that do have child support delinquencies and are looking for work. So they assist them when they're trying to get jobs and get education. So right now they've added a vehicle change program. So and the individual that's in charge of that is Otis Merritt. He's the one that sent out the email, and he's a human services specialist with the Department of Social Services. So that's an additional resource for those that are dealing with those clientele.
Thank you so much, Judge. All right, so what I have is then our next meeting is August 1st, 8 a.m. So we will see you all then, unless anybody has any additional announcements. All right, thank you so much for this June 6th meeting, and short and sweet, 40 minutes. We'll get you back to your Fridays and off to your work. So thank you again so much, and we'll see you August 1st, 8 a.m. Thank you. Bye-bye.